It's Tuesday, May 28th, 2013. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, King of Tokyo.
Let's do this.
We're back from Anime Boston. It was a good time. It was cold as fuck, and it rained the entire weekend.
Yeah, it sucked.
That was the worst. And I think the worst part of the worst
We
was
come
that,
home, we had one good sunny day, and now, rain again.
Yep, but
What
it was
fuck,
funny
weather?
that as we left Boston, like literally we're sitting inside on Sunday, like, man, this sucks. We can't go outside. We finally are like, fuck it, let's just get on our bus. And as soon as we walk out with our luggage, it's like sunny again. It's nice out. Everything's cleaning up. It's warm again. But yeah, Anime Boston was great. If you're looking for coverage of that or anime, kind of got to hold out to next Wednesday because we do 4 different Geek Night shows. And this is the one we did after Anime Boston, and it's a Tuesday, so it's gaming.
Okay.
Talking about games, but a game that we bought at Anime Boston. So I guess the news that we can talk about that's probably the most interesting, what everyone is waiting for us to say something dumb so they can yell at us because our listeners are weird sometimes, is the Xbox.
Xbox One. You know, I called the other Xbox the Xbox One, so now it's like there's 2 Xbox Ones.
I don't like the name One, but then again, I didn't like the name Wii.
See, the thing that bothers me...
are you going to play your Nintendo Revolution?
If I was a game company, like Microsoft, it's like everyone just says Xbox, right? Just call it Xbox. Apple gets away with it. Just call every iPad, and then on Wikipedia, people are like 3rd gen, 4th gen, whatever. Just keep saying Xbox.
Though the problem is, if you say Xbox and it isn't backward compatible, some kid's going to buy an Xbox game, and it won't work. The reason they do that is because that way they brand in the store, these are the Xbox 360 games. So the kid with a regular old Xbox is like, oh man, Dad, I need a new Xbox.
Yeah, you know why Apple gets away with that on their iPads and iPhones?
Because it doesn't matter.
Because the store just won't let you buy apps that won't work on that device.
Yep.
If they're going to go digital and they want this internet connected all the time, just go fucking all digital. Throw the disk drive out. Throw it out.
So the most exciting thing to me about the Xbox announcement was that the controller looks really good.
Yeah, I mean, sure, if I break one of my existing controllers, that one looks pretty much the same with a non-shitty D-pad.
Well, I only own 3, so I might buy one of the new one if it'll work with my HTPC.
I'm sure it'll work with your HTPC, but I read, I don't think it uses the receiver. I didn't get 100% details on this.
Seems like Microsoft really downplayed that receiver in general.
Yeah, someone said something about Wi-Fi something. Like it goes, I don't know. I don't know how this controller works, if it uses the same wireless protocol as the old one or not. But it has pretty much the same buttons, and it's mostly the same shape, and yeah. D-pad that doesn't look like it sucks.
Yeah, but it seems like they spent a lot of time when they were talking about it, focusing on all the sort of HTPC-like things that it'll do.
Oh, you mean the Xbox in general, not the controller?
Yeah, though the Xbox in general. They were definitely like, yeah, Netflix, all in one. This is the thing that'll be connected to your TV that does everything.
Yeah,
oh my God.
I mean, if you're a person who is somehow not listening to us and not building an HTPC like you should, and you have too many boxes under your TV, like a Roku and a console, you know, it's actually kind of good if you don't mind paying the fee for it, right? You can throw your cable box out and just use this.
Because one thing I noticed way back with my Xbox was that it did not, if you use like YouTube on that or on a Roku or anything, any device that isn't just an HTPC, you don't see all the videos if you do a search.
Yeah, but if you're too dumb to make an HTPC, that's what you deal with.
Now, the thing is, people were making a lot of fun about the, like, oh, 8 gigs of RAM. Ha, that's like half what my laptop has, which is true. But it does. People seem to forget that the Xbox One, or the Xbox 2 even, had 512 megabytes.
Yeah, game consoles always have less horsepower than PCs because they're not really multitasking, and the software that is written for them is highly optimized because there's only one hardware thing to target, right? Like if I write a video game for PC, I have to get that thing to work on any possible GPU that anyone has. So I can't really highly optimize it for any one. So I'm actually not really getting the most out of the hardware. You know, that's what the demo scene is all about. The demo scene is like, holy crap, look what that guy can make an Apple IIGS do. And it looks amazing because you're not used to seeing Apple IIGS software doing that kind of awesome shit. And it's like, yeah, it's highly optimized for that specific hardware. You know, so basically every console game there ever is demo scene, right? It basically pushes that specific hardware to the limit because
except the
they only
PlayStation 3
write
where no one ever really pushed it.
well, because it was too hard to push.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean,
It was a Sisyphusian task.
Exactly. But the Xbox, not really. One thing someone did point it out, right? Who won this console generation? The Wii U, the Xbox One, and the PS4 all have ATI cards.
Yep, that was actually a good thing that I didn't notice at first.
Yep.
But is that, I would posit, based on no other knowledge, that is AMD cutting some sort of sweet deal to steal that from Intel.
Yeah, obviously, right? It's not. That doesn't mean ATI is better or that you should put it in your computer. It's saying that ATI gave them a better deal because they're desperate, and it's good enough for all those consoles, right? And for the console people, it doesn't really matter to them which one, right? It's gonna work.
Well, it's funny.
either way.
The people who pay attention to the details of the specs, by and large, I think, are the PC gamers who are looking at them just to scoff at it, and the actual demographic that's going to use the Xbox will never know or care much about what's inside
also,
of it.
those really shallow people who still think there's a console war going on, like the 16-bit era, they haven't gotten over it yet, or their kids and they're having their own. So they need something to compare these consoles with no games. So
I mean, really, to me,
compare the specs.
Super Nintendo Sega Genesis was actually the last console war.
Right, because that was a time when you couldn't really buy both, and both of them had drastically different game libraries, right? There were the number of games on both that were significant games were few. Nowadays, it's like, yeah, okay, 90% of the games on both these consoles are identical. The Xbox is going to have like a couple games that aren't on the PS4 or the PC, and the PS4 is going to have a couple that aren't anything else, and every other game is going to be in every single platform. So what the fuck does it matter which one you have? There's no war.
Well, unless you want Nintendo, where it's all just on Nintendo.
Yeah, and there's 2 games also.
So Nintendo, I guess, is at eternal war with no one.
Yeah.
Oh, Nintendo.
Anyway.
But yeah, the Xbox, I think, is going to be the quote-unquote winner of this quote-unquote console generation, in the sense that, and a lot of people made this point, that the Wii U does all the things that the nerds online are complaining about, in terms of that it doesn't really have the kinds of DRM and always-on lock-in stuff.
It has a region lock, though.
It does have a region lock, but every console has a region lock.
Yeah.
Except the DS, but even the 3DS has region lock now. Seriously, Nintendo?
Seriously.
Really? That fucks the one person who speaks Japanese and English and lives in America and wants to play games from both.
And you still, sure, region lock and translate your fucking games.
Yeah.
You know how many amazing freaking games there are for Wii U and Nintendo systems in Japan that they just don't bring here?
Granted,
Why do you even bother putting your console out in some other country if you're not going to put any games out?
They did bring out that Nobunaga Pokemon, and you know what? It was pretty shit.
Yeah, but there are plenty of other games that are not shit.
Are they not shit, or you just think they're not shit because you haven't played them?
And it's not even just Nintendo, right? Look, the Phoenix Wright game comes out in like 3 days. Why is it not a simultaneous release? Those have been very successful in the U.S. and they're not shit.
Have the most recent ones made enough money to be worth it?
I'm sure that's a Capcom game, first of all, right? And
Yeah.
Second of all, yeah, I'm pretty sure they made enough money to be worth it, because why did they keep putting out more of them?
But the Xbox, I think, Microsoft still has the best online experience of all the consoles, hands down.
Yeah.
And it'll do a serviceable job as an HTPC if you don't have an HTPC.
Yeah. I think what they've done that's, good is that, Nintendo was like, all right, we're going to give up on your hardcore people and just target, this new audience, right? And they didn't realize, I guess, that new audience, will love to buy your console as like a Christmas present and have fun with it for a while. But they're not going to be invested in it and continue to keep buying games and sit there and play it and play it and play it. So it's really just sort of a one-time burst sort of sale, right? So what Xbox is doing is they're also giving up on the hardcore audience, quote unquote, right? Which I guess is people who really, really care about games. And they're just going for the regular core, which is huge. It's just, that's all right, fine. All the Call of Duties and the Halos and the Maddens.
The regular core gamer probably outweighs all other gamers combined.
They just need to
Hands
add
down.
in a console League of Legends kind of game, and that's it.
Oh my God. If Microsoft doesn't make some sort of deal to just have like,
If I had the resources, I would be I'm telling you, a simplified game MOBA where you play with a gamepad, right, will be a huge success. Just like a simplified, dumbed down FPS known as GoldenEye or Halo was a huge success.
now it is interesting that the Kinect is required, included, and a big part of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious if I still feel like the Kinect is just waggle in the Wii. Like it's
It
not
is. Yep.
adding anything to gaming. Every Kinect game I've ever played has been pretty terrible and had pretty really, really bad actual controls with the Kinect.
It adds a little bit to the
Even
HTPC.
Dance Central was okay.
Yeah, it adds a little bit to the HTPC aspect because, you're already not smart enough to build an HTPC. You're probably not smart enough to handle like 10 remote
Or
controls
the
with a
fact
million
that
buttons
if you
on
want to
them.
play some of these games, an HTPC that'll play that level of game right now would be more expensive than the Xbox when it comes out.
Maybe, but the point is, if you're not good, the kind of person who can figure out how to use 3 remote controls, right, to handle your home theater, just saying Xbox, play this show, right, might work, especially if it works, which it seems to.
Yep, but a lot of people seem to be really afraid of the Kinect being online. Like suddenly I see all these blog posts of people who are comparing it to 1984.
Well, that was the Penny Arcade comic.
Yeah, but everyone's talking about that. And it seems like a lot of the people who are freaking out about it, I went back through their like Tumblr histories or blog histories. They also were afraid of Google Glass and other people wearing it.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it's a Kinect. It's a video camera. I've got a webcam plugged into almost every computer I use those webcams occasionally. I can't imagine Microsoft doing anything sinister with it.
No, but there were a lot of cases where people had webcams in their computers, and then they would get hacked or something because they were stupid, right? They installed some malware or they clicked on something, or
Oh
they
yeah, and it's gonna be
had a dumb
hilarious if
password.
someone hacks the Xbox. And
Exactly. That's what's gonna. It's not Microsoft isn't gonna look at you, right? They don't give a shit, right? It's gonna be someone's gonna figure out an exploit where they can like type in your Xbox Live username and then look at your living room, and then Microsoft is gonna be the one who gets in trouble, just like Sony got in trouble with their rootkit.
Thing is, to be
nonsense.
honest, I think the likelihood of something like that actually happening is pretty low.
It'll be a tough nut to crack, but if someone goes for it, I think they will succeed at least once, and it'll get patched.
I feel like that's number one on Microsoft's list of don't let that happen.
It could happen, but it could happen with the current Kinect. A lot of people have them plugged in.
But I mean, it's funny because it wasn't that long ago on Geeknights, like 2006, we were talking about PC gaming was basically dead. I mean, I was thinking about buying a Mac. We were all console games and portable consoles, and that was it. And then PC gaming had a big resurgence, and now the exclusives, PC wins in terms of exclusives. There's more exclusives on the PC.
They're all these like indie games and weird things you download and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Are the exclusives of the PC.
So I can't. For me as
Web
a gamer, there's
games.
almost no exclusive that'll be on a console that isn't on my PC.
Do you want to play some Gods of War,
Meh.
Forza, Gran Turismo, Halo?
Forza, Gran Turismo, that kind of thing actually would be tempting if there was something else to go with it. But if I buy just that, I basically bought a really expensive Gran Turismo machine.
Exactly.
Kind of like how my current Xbox 360 basically is a glorified Street Fighter and Pac-Man CEDX console.
Pac-Man CEDX is on Windows 8. It's not on Windows 7 though.
Yeah.
It's in the Microsoft Store or
Great.
whatever. And then
But it wasn't back then.
The most updated Street Fighter 4 is on Steam. However, I imagine if you're looking to play online against people, you're going to find a lot more people playing on Xbox.
Well, luckily, I'm not looking to
than
play
on
online
Steam.
with people.
Yeah, so there you go.
So yeah, we'll see. I don't think there's going to be much of interest in this so-called console generation, console war. There's 3 competing consoles. 2 of them are going to be pretty much the same, and it's going to come down to branding and exclusives.
Yep.
And, kids who self-identify as being with one console or with the
All
other.
those Call of Duty people, all millions of them, are just going to buy Xboxes and play Madden and Call of Duty, just
Yep.
like they have been. Anyway, the one thing I think that's going to be interesting, right, is the elimination of the used games, right? And this is why. Regardless of right of first sale argument that we've made 100 times, right? Everyone's like, oh, Steam, yeah, there's no used games on Steam, but they charge you $1, so you don't even care, right? And this is the thing. Xbox games like Call of Duty, Madden, right? All the kids who don't have a lot of money, which is most of them, like all the ones that were at Anime Boston, right? What they do is they buy $50 video games or get them as presents or something, especially single player ones that have endings. They beat them, they sell them back to the store, and then they buy a new one for like 10, 20 bucks, which is what they can afford. Right? Because effectively 10, 20 bucks because they sold another one back.
Yep.
Right? And that's the only way these kids can afford to build a game library or to play a lot of games, is doing this, is selling games back and buying new ones. If you eliminate that ability, each one of those kids is basically going to sit there with his $50 game that he can't sell, right? And he's only going to ever buy like 4 or 5 games, like maybe half as many games as they would have bought, which is really, really going to hurt. Not the biggest, best games. Those will all still sell, right? The same number of consoles will probably still sell.
But the games that you buy with the $20 you got from Mario, whatever.
Those less popular games, right, are not going to see as many sales for $50, $60 when, so it's only the top tier that will sell, and these kids won't have enough money to buy, 2 of the lower tier games. They'll have to save up twice as long, or 3 times as long, and only get one of them. So the long tail, when there's no used games, is either going to go away unless they do Steam pricing where shit is actually fucking cheap.
Here's what I would do. This is kind of out there. If I had the
Have
ability,
Steam pricing.
No, I wouldn't do Steam pricing because you can really milk the console, that culture and those people and what they're expecting to pay for games, which is funny because you kids pay less for games than we paid in the NES era.
Yeah, every single NES game I bought, from the best one to the shittiest one, was between $40 and $50 and $60.
I paid $75, and these are long time ago dollars, for Zelda 2 on the NES.
Well, my Zelda 2 was a gray cartridge, only cost me $50.
Yeah, mine was gold. I bought it like day one.
And I bought it way after it came out.
Day one.
But like I bought things like you would go to Toys R Us, you'd look at the shelf, you wouldn't know what to buy. I bought like some golf game that wasn't a good one, but I didn't know that wasn't a good one, and it was $50.
Mario 3 was $65 at Toys R Us.
Dig Dug 2, $50. Friggin' everything, $50.
But what I would do is set up some sort of system where if there's a game that's one of those second tier games, yeah, it's $50 in the online store or whatever, that your parents give you credits from their credit card because kids don't have credit cards and you have to get that sort of online sale from the kids who don't go to game stores anymore because they don't have anything to sell back. Set it up to where if you already own Call of Duty, you get a $20 discount on this list of other games. And that kicks in like 6 months after Call of Duty comes out.
Here's the problem with this strategy, right? This strategy might get some sales on those other games, right? But it's only getting $30 sales on those other games, right? When kids resell their shit to GameStop, right? Basically, they're buying, new copies of that, they're buying $50 for that other game, right? So even though some of the kids are like, sell a used one, buy a used one, right? Someone had to sell that used one. All those full price copies were sold at some point, along the line there.
Yeah, well, you're really fundamentally changing that model of how you sell the second tier
There's a lot of
games.
math there, right? It's like, okay, if we're now taking the money from all the used copies the GameStop sells and giving that to the developers.
But there's the rub.
But
there's the
all
difference.
of the original sales of the new copies are going down in price. So GameStop obviously isn't making any money here, but how much will the original developer make if their first sales are down, but they get the money back from the used sales?
But at the same time, by cutting GameStop entirely out of the picture, you could probably come up with some way to capture a portion of that money that was previously in this sort of low-rent middleman.
But here's the other problem with cutting GameStop out of the picture, which they're not actually doing, right?
Well, for used stuff they are. A big part of GameStop is used stuff.
Yeah. Is that, kids really only have cash. They don't freaking have credit cards.
Yeah, you need to be really good about supporting a way for the parents or the kid to take money and put it into the Xbox account, and then the kid can buy direct.
A lot of that game got sold to the store, new game got bought, is just kids on their own with whatever money they can scrap together from who knows what, right?
Yep.
If, parents are like approving every single game purchase, it's going to be a lot less fucking game purchases in total.
unless they do the thing where you can buy the card with cash at like Walmart and then use that to buy the game online.
Well, they'll do that all for sure. But actually, I
Yeah.
think they're going to complete. They're getting rid of Xbox points. Now it's just going to show you dollars, just like Steam does.
Which is exactly what I thought they should have done all along.
Well,
even
I don't
though
know,
I understand why. I understand why anyone ever does the points thing because it makes you money.
Yeah, I guess.
I just don't like it. I don't agree with it, but I understand why.
Whatever.
But yeah, not super excited. Gonna keep playing PC stuff. In
Yeah,
fact,
considering how my Xbox collects dust, it's pretty much a Pac-Man CEDX machine. Not going to buy a new one.
I haven't turned on my Xbox in 6 months.
The thing is, if I sold my Xbox, I'd have to sell like the other things that go with it, like that Rock Band guitar that would then become
I don't
useless.
know any of that shit because I knew better.
My joystick is still good though. That works with PCs.
Yeah,
and
that's
stuff.
just USB.
Yeah. I got a couple Xbox games to sell off. I guess.
So-
mm.
Speaking of doubling down on PC gaming, it's been a while since I've been in the market for a video card because I built my computer in 2009 and it can still play most of the games today
Oh.
because I built a fucking badass computer back in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
So a while ago, a long time ago, I upgraded to the GTX 260, which I'm
Whoa.
still using.
Hey.
I finally hit a problem. The draw distance in Counter-Strike on some of these large
You mean
new
Counter-Strike
maps.
Go?
Counter-Strike Go.
I imagine you can get full frames on hot max settings with
Yeah.
Counter-Strike Source.
I can't see in the windows of the lake house from the furthest edges of the map because of my draw distance.
Even if you use the sniper rifle and zoom in double time?
Yeah, it just the draw distance is
It just shows you
inside
like
of
a
that.
black square.
I see a gray square in the window, and I can't
Even
see
if someone's
anything.
in there?
Yep.
And you zoomed in?
Yep.
Whoa.
So I've been waiting for a while to upgrade my video card.
What if you just turn the settings up? Do you just lose too many frames?
Yeah, it's unplayable. Then.
Okay.
So basically, I was needing a new video card anyway as well because I do a lot more video editing than I used to. And my current video card cannot show me 4 rendered effects simultaneously.
Yeah, I mean, I got the 680, and if I do Premiere, pretty much everything is always rendered in the preview render.
Yeah, when I have like 4 scaled sets
as long
of
as my
footage.
sequence settings are correct, the yellow bar is always the full way across the sequence.
So the 780 came out, the GTX 780.
Can you actually buy one now,
You
or
can
is it
buy
just
one
like
now.
announced?
It's on Newegg. It's $650.
Whoa! I mean, I just looked up mine before the show. I bought a 680 like a year ago, maybe a little over a year
So
ago.
yeah, my plan
for
was to
500, and it's still 500.
was to wait for the 700 series to come out and then buy a 680 at a substantial discount. So I got to wait and see when that discount will come. I think the 680 is not actually going to drop in price until the 760 comes out. I might just buy the 780 because it's only $650.
Oh, it's only twice as much as an Xbox One is probably going to be ish.
I think the Xbox One, if I had to guess, having not read a lot of news about it, like detailed news about pricing, I'm going to guess 500.
Really?
I think because of the Kinect and all that in
I don't
there.
think you're gonna see too many sales at 500. Remember they got to have some sort of cheapo version, like with the Xbox 360, the arcade edition. That was
See,
all
no,
cheap.
I would expect there to be a more ghetto version, but what's the deal with the Kinect and all that other stuff in there? It seems like you can't sell it without the Kinect because stuff just won't work.
You sell consoles at a loss, man. Especially with the used game thing, you got to sell the console at a loss, right? So it's got to be 300 or 400, like 300 for the cheap one. Right? Otherwise, how you gonna no one's gonna buy it at 500. Only crazy people.
Yeah, we'll see.
Remember the
though.
PS3? They sold it for like way too much money.
And it still kind of worked out. It was a popular console.
Kinda. They would have done a lot. People went crazy though when they saw how expensive it was.
Wow. So yeah, people talking about the price. The estimates are all over, but a lot of people are saying 400, 500 based on the last 35 seconds of Googling.
Okay. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we will see what happens. But yeah, I mean, the 780 is useless unless you're a nerd who uses your computer for a ton of stuff and need video. But it's basically...
Even for gaming, I have a 680. Every single game, I can get full frames at full resolution with max settings. So a 780 for gaming or like SLI for gaming is fucking stupid.
But I have alternative use cases of lots of HD video and effects.
For gaming.
Exactly. The thing is, I'm getting close to the point. I think another year is the longest I can hold out on this computer before I upgrade it.
I usually get new computers every 5 years. That's so you said 2009?
Yep.
It's 2013.
I know. Thing is, my computer is still super powerful.
Yeah, I think the thing is, remember, usually I buy a computer in the $800 range, right? This time I bought i7 680. I expect this to last 6-7 years, not 5 years.
I've got the old nomenclature i7 920
Okay.
from the old standard.
I guess I have something, Ivy, something, I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But anyway, things of the day. This is a collection of pictures of Klein bottles
Ooh.
in all sorts of different. Here's a knitted Klein bottle. Here's a toy that's set up like a Klein bottle. You can crawl inside of it. I guess that doesn't turn you inside out like a proper one would. Crazy glasswork, triple, quadruple, quintuple Klein bottles. If you don't know what a Klein bottle is, just go to the website. You'll figure it all out.
Okay. So, osgameclones.com. This site tries to gather open source re-implementations of great old games in one place. If you think that some information is blah, 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 GitHub something, something. So yeah, this site basically lists all the open source clones of games, such as, I guess they even, ScumVM's on here, FreeCiv.
Marathon.
There's a OpenRA, which is some sort of Red Alert clone. There's something called DXX and D2X, which is Descent clones. His, I guess it lists things also like engines like ZDoom, his Open Dune, like the, the RTS, Keeper FX, and even tells you like sporadic development, active development, moderate active development, like
Well, they even got inspirational games, like people who are making these sort of spiritual successors to dead old franchises.
Yeah, for Star Control 2, of course, it lists Urquan
A lot
Masters.
of these look like they're really low rent.
Well, yes, almost all of these that I've ever played in my life. I've played a lot of open source clones.
FreeCiv.
Yeah, I've played a lot of open source clones of games, and they're all pretty much just like ghetto versions for,
They tend to have terrible UIs and bad graphics.
Yes, but they are mostly mechanically identical to the original games. I think someone actually got FreeCiv working in a browser, so you can just like go to the website and play FreeCiv, which isn't too bad.
Yeah, it is. Have you played FreeCiv?
Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah. I mean, take the Civ 2 experience, but make it more obtuse.
But in a browser.
I could play it in a browser with some sort of browser DOS emulator.
Anyway, this is pretty interesting, especially if you want to work on one of these games, right? Maybe turn it into not a piece of shit. Or, the ones that are just engines like ScumVM and such, right? Oh, this is the X4, whatever it is that lets you play Ultima 4.
Yeah, I think this is a treasure trove
there's
for...
gonna be some on here you didn't know about. That
this is mostly for aspiring
play.
developers, because half these projects are dead and have the worst
It's
websites.
funny that most of them actually say active development on this site, at least.
Yeah, but then you go to them and it's like last push of code 2012. I've been clicking through these. They're not looking so good.
Not to look so good.
Super Mario War. Super Mario War is about a Super Mario multiplayer game. The goal is to stomp as many other Marios as possible.
That's not really a clone. That's just
it's inspired by. It's in that section.
Okay. Sure.
Oh, but here's the source code. Development is halted. No updates since 2010.
Well, at least it says on osgameclones.com development halted.
Yeah.
So
I went to the website. It's halted.
Okay. XCOM series, UFO, Alien Invasion, active development. Let's see what this looks like. Is there a screenshot? There is a screenshot.
How's it look?
It looks like System Shock 2 level graphics on an XCOM.
Huh.
With the sort of really polygonish 3D where the sharp edges on everything.
Yep. Oh, hey, Z-Doom's on here.
Yeah.
I don't want to play Doom.
Who doesn't want to play Doom?
I love Doom. I always forget how great Doom is. So in the meta moment, the book club book is Player of Games, Ian M. Banks. I'm gonna start reading it soon. Scott already finished it.
A while ago.
I've been busy, but there's a lot of rain coming up, and I got a bunch of travel coming up and stuff, so I'll probably be reading a lot. Yeah, we were at Anime Boston. We did not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 panels. Most of them were full. I'm sorry to any of you who couldn't get into them. We will put video of some of them online, maybe, whenever I get around to it.
Except for that one where the cosplay guy was holding his cosplay sticks up in front of the camera.
Yeah, whatever. I think the only one I have really good video of is the last one we did, which is probably the best one. And, yeah, next up, ConnectiCon in July.
Oh, shit.
And then PAX Australia, also in July.
And man, in fact, the week after, immediately.
Yes, we are literally running the panels and workshops department, all 14 panel rooms across 3 days. Jesus Christ, there's a lot of panels. And then we're immediately flying to Melbourne to do a panel at PAX Australia. I guess we're not Omeganauts.
I didn't buy a badge. I can't be an Omeganaut.
Yeah, I assume they only look at people who bought normal badges for the Omegathon.
Yeah.
And I assume they only look at people who buy a 4-day badge.
Yeah.
If you buy just a Friday badge, that wouldn't make sense. So yeah, I guess with PAX having mostly single-day badges, I guess only the people who bought a 4-day badge are eligible.
Interesting.
That's what I would assume. I will ask them because I'm curious now. I'll bet it's that.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, that's it.
Are they going to have the Omegathon finale on Sunday and then Monday no Omegathon?
Maybe Daddy 2 Omegathons?
Then what's the closing ceremony?
I don't know.
I still think they should add, especially at PAX Prime where they have 4 days, they should have a pro Megathon, right? The Omegathon is keep it the way it is perfect. They have a pro Megathon where it's like you got to play the hardcore games, fighting game, RTS, FPS.
Well, if you're going to do that, do it like
Tetris.
this. You have an online system with tryouts during the year.
Yeah, it should be, pros only, right? Let's see, who the best Omeganaut is, and then let's see who the best pro
Yeah, you know what we're doing right
Omeganaut
now? You know what we're
is.
doing right now? The thing that Luke Crane hates. You know what you should do?
You know what you should do.
You know what you should do?
You should do. Anyway,
so at Anime Boston, of course, ConnectiCon, the convention we run the panels and workshop department for, also is at other cons selling games, and we were hanging out with them.
yeah, there's a game store. The game store is actually called ConnectiCon, member and tournament center. It's in Connecticut somewhere.
But I always forget that we get a big staff discount, and King of Tokyo, that Richard Garfield game, was just sitting there.
Yeah,
So I was
people have been
like,
talking about this game for a long time. I see it played everywhere. It's got a good theme, like basically the theme of Rampage, same
Yep.
theme. And it shot up the Board Game Geek rankings. I'm pretty sure it's way up there. Let me see exactly where it is.
Yep, it has an average rating of 7.45. It's ranked 108.
I think it's actually higher on the actual straight up list.
Nope, on the straight up list, it's 108.
Oh,
On
okay.
the family game list, it's 16.
Whoa, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's every board game fucking ever. 16 family games. Wow, that's a big.
But I want to take an aside because this game, King of Tokyo, and several other games that are like it that have come out in recent history are all just Yahtzee with a twist. Not saying that's bad. I'm saying almost everyone we've talked to has never played Yahtzee.
Right, so
How the
let's
fuck
list the games
did
that
you
are.
get through your life and not run into Yahtzee? Yahtzee is like one under Monopoly and one above Candyland in terms of basic games everyone plays with their
So
family.
here are the games that are just like Yahtzee. Roll through the ages, not through the ages, but roll through the ages. Skyline, was that the one?
Yeah, Skyline.
All right.
What was the game? I played it at Anime Boston where you colonize the planet.
I forget.
You forget?
Alien Frontier?
Yeah.
Is that Yahtzee?
Yeah, that's Yahtzee.
Okay. Yeah, there's just tons of freaking games that are all actually just Yahtzee. I guess, Zombie Dice is sort of Yahtzee-ish. Not exactly, but sort of.
Yeah, basically, these are the games, it is Alien Frontiers from before, where you roll a bunch of dice, usually 5, and then you pick which ones you want to keep and re-roll the rest, and do that twice.
It's basically the same mechanic as draw poker, only you get to draw twice.
And Yahtzee's been around forever. Yahtzee is one of those old-ass games that's super studied. At least I assumed until recently, everyone I'd ever met had played it, and suddenly, I'm introducing these games to people, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's basically Yahtzee, but with an attack component. And they're like, Yahtzee? What, you mean the guy that talks about games online? And I'm like, what the fuck?
What the fuck is wrong? So, basically what Yahtzee games come down to is, is probability, right? And there's different combinations of the die results will result in different scores or points or whatever. So you need to know what you need, right? In terms of score. You want more points generally. And, all of them have different odds. High scoring things, and if the game is well designed, have low odds, and things that score low are very easy to roll, relatively speaking, in terms of percentages. But you roll all the dice initially, and you see what your results are, and thus you need to calculate, knowing that my first roll, now I can see certain scoring possibilities are more or less likely. Something that might be more points might actually be more likely than something that is less points, given the dice I've already rolled. Like, I've already got 3 6s. So rolling 2 6s on 2 dice, right? And with 2 chances to roll them, that's pretty likely right now, actually. You know, whereas it was incredibly unlikely when I rolled just all the dice to begin with.
So any game that has that mechanic of roll dice, pick some, and do the poker thing until you have your set, and then deploy the set in some fashion onto a board or a score sheet, if you play Yahtzee until you can play it basically perfectly,
where the winner is basically random based on the look of the dice,
you'll be good at all of those games, because once you master that, that's the core of the game, and all the other stuff is just increasingly obtuse ways of actually maximizing the roll after you roll it, or understanding what is worth more points in a game like Alien Frontier. It's worth noting, I played Alien Frontiers for the first time at Anime Boston, and yeah, I just played Yahtzee, and I won by so much, it was ridiculous.
Right, like if I play Yahtzee against some kid, like a middle school or high school kid who at least understands what's going on, unless they're the really smart kid, you know, I'm just going to win.
If Scott and I play, we might as well just flip a coin.
If me and Rim play, let's just keep taking the score sheets over and over again. It's probably going to come out to 50% winning after enough
So Scott,
games.
here's a bit of trivia. In the standard officially published rules of Yahtzee, what is the maximum possible score?
I think you can only get a certain number of Yahtzees.
Yes.
Right?
Do you know how many? Because I had to look it up. I did not remember.
I believe, I'm trying to remember. I think that my Yahtzee score sheets that I had when I was a kid, official ones, said like on a triple Yahtzee, you would get like 500 or something.
Oh, no, triple Yahtzee. That was a different game.
Was it?
Yes.
Oh, I guess we had triple Yahtzee.
Yes, you had triple Yahtzee.
Because if you had 3 Yahtzees in one game, you would score a triple Yahtzee to get many hundreds, right? And then, right, so that you could keep filling those up. And basically what would happen is if you managed to get enough Yahtzees, you wouldn't X out your Yahtzee hole. So you would keep rolling even after everyone else had filled their score sheets, and you could keep going and going.
Yeah, so in the standard game, there are 13 chips. And you can get a chip for every additional Yahtzee you get. So if you get all 13 and you max out the rest of the game, your maximum total score is 1,575.
Okay, that sounds about right.
Unless Wikipedia.
I remember I remember
me.
good Yahtzee scores would be in like the high 800, 900s or low thousands.
Yep.
It's, you know, if you got a Yahtzee, that's like hundreds.
But seriously, in general, if you want to be good at games, and I feel like I'm going to add this to some of our panels for the next time we talk about this stuff, Yahtzee itself is, while it's not a good game for people who know better, it is a great game to learn a lot of the basic skills of gaming.
Yeah, you're not going to be good at games unless you can master Yahtzee. And Yahtzee is so transparent and easy to master just because it's not trying to hide or conceal anything with theme or anything like that. So if you just play a lot of Yahtzee until you've mastered it, then you're going to be really good at all these other games we're talking about.
Because it teaches you sort of opportunity cost, it teaches you odds, it
Math.
teaches you when you're falling behind, you've got to go for things that are less and less likely to catch up.
Yep.
The Hail Mary.
Yep.
The game, it also teaches you dice rolling and jigaboo jonesing.
Yep.
Because you roll in that cup. I learned how to cheat as a kid by swirling the dice at the end or putting them in, having 2 dice that I swirl while one's banging around in the middle, and then immediately flipping the cup over. I could consistently give myself 3 of a kind or really good odds in getting along straight.
I had basically like, I didn't have the whole game. I had like remnants of the game because I think it was my great uncle's and it was mad old and decrepit. But it was basically from the pieces left over, I could tell had these orange dice and a cup and sort of a blue tray similar to a Yahtzee tray.
Yep.
But all the dice had letters on them for spelling. Yeah, I don't remember what the name of the game was.
Boo.
Maybe, yeah, let me see if I can find it on Board Game Geek.
So yeah, King of Tokyo is at its core Yahtzee, but instead of deploying your dice to points, you deploy your dice to sort of one of 3 areas. You can either build up energy to buy superpowers, you can attack other players directly to kick them out of the game, or you can acquire victory points. And the way the game ends is if you get 20 victory points, you win, everyone else loses, game over. If you are the last man standing before anyone has gotten 20 victory points, you win, game over. So it adds that element. It's not a great game. It's eminently solvable. The odds, once you figure them out and once you know the strategy, there's not a lot going on there. It ends up having chip-taking game elements with the attacking, but the way it gets around that is very elegant. It's a very sort of, I can see why this is a Richard Garfield game. So the way it works is you roll your dice, and if you get the claws, which lets you attack, if you're in Tokyo, you do damage to everyone who's not in Tokyo. If you're not in Tokyo, you only do damage to the person who's in Tokyo. When you take damage and you're in Tokyo, you have the option to stay the fuck there anyway, or to concede Tokyo to whoever hits you. If you stay in Tokyo all the way until your next turn, you get 2 victory points for remaining in Tokyo. So the game has this sort of sunk cost fallacy. Do I hold out? Or, oh, I've taken too much damage, I've got to bail. How much am I willing to risk on the next person's roll? Do I go for fucking other people or victory points on my own? And it adds just enough to where it's a good game to play as the light warm-up game before your real game, because it takes 20 minutes to play this game.
Okay.
And it takes 5 minutes to teach this game.
I found the word Yahtzee. It's Spill and Spell, also known as Scribbage, which is now, I guess, known as word Yahtzee. But yeah, this is the exact one that I had. See it here with these orange dice and the cup?
I've never seen that in my life.
Yeah, there's apparently fuck tons of versions of it called Spill and Spell, Scribbage, and word Yahtzee. So there you go.
So, I don't know, what do you think of King of Tokyo? Because you played it with me.
Well, King of Tokyo, I think, has some really elegant elements to it, right?
Like the fact that the chip taking is based on are you in or out as opposed to I'm attacking this player.
Right. It's basically you're forced into Tokyo, right? If you don't want to be. And then it's like, you either leave as soon as someone rolls a claw on purpose because you're going to die.
Or you hold out to the bitter fucking
or
end.
If you're gonna stay in there, you got to stay in there until it's your turn, unless something freakish happens, right? Like maybe, somebody rolls like 4 claws, and it's like, okay, I didn't think anyone would roll 4 claws, right? I thought I could make it around with my 10 health, but I guess not. So I'm gonna pull out now, right? But even then, if you get down in your health from like a 4-claw roll when you're in Tokyo and you're out of Tokyo, the person who just went in, if it becomes to, whoever's in Tokyo, if they roll and do some damage, that might kill you off.
So think of this.
You're not safe, but you need to roll hearts.
If you're in Tokyo, it's like King of the Hill. You're getting points for being in the King of the Hill place. But instead of, basically now every other player is doing damage only to you. Well, if you're in Tokyo, you're doing damage to everyone else. So when you're in Tokyo, you're effectively getting an analog to victory points by doing damage because you're taking everyone else down equally. Mm-hmm. But if anyone attacks you, they're all attacking just you and knocking you out of the game.
Yep.
I think the strategy, having only played it a few times, is to stay the fuck out of Tokyo.
I agree, because the first game I played, I stayed the fuck out of Tokyo and I ended up winning. And the second game, I was trying to stay in a few times to get points and I just died.
Now, I wouldn't go for damage either. I'd let other players do that. Of course, then it's a brinksmanship game. But I would go for energy to buy the superpowers.
And also victory points.
Just basically take victory points opportunistically. So try to be like second place in victory points. That way, if someone blitzes toward the end, you can either beat them on the blitz or kill them. But you're not so far behind that you can never catch up. Like if you roll 2 3s, go for that third 3. Get all those victory points. But otherwise, go all energy, buy as many superpowers as you can, and just be the invincible asshole who wins the game kind of on his own at the end when everyone else is kind of weak.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is the basic way to win.
And staying out of Tokyo means you can roll hearts. So if you do take damage, you'll be good, right?
But basically, it's a light game, quick to play, quick to teach, could be reboxed into basically a tiny bag.
Yeah, and anyone can learn and play this game, right? So it's sort of like you can get people who are less gamery to play a game that does have some good strategies in it, right? That they normally might be averse to playing. The theme is excellent. Awesome theme.
The art is great. The pieces are super high quality.
Right? There's a monster for every personal taste. Like, I like all the monsters except King Kong because he's lame.
I think the Kraken and the Evil Bunny are my favorite.
You mean the Kraken?
Kraken.
It's a Kraken.
It's a Titan? Have you never been mellow?
Of course, I think I picked at first when I saw the cover of the box. Because usually in Rampage I always pick Lizzie, so I was thinking I'd either be the Godzilla or I'd be the Cyber Bunny, because I mean cyber, right?
Yeah.
But then when I opened the box, I saw there's a Kraken. That's basically just as good as the dinosaur.
He's got a good face.
The
too.
Godzilla, right?
He's got a big,
and then
funny
I saw
claw.
the Mecha Dragon. I'm like, well, fuck. I mean, that slightly edges the other ones out, but all of them are great except for the friggin' King Kong.
Now, I would compare this actually to Skyline. That game that wasn't it like part of the Kickstarter for Ground Floor?
Yeah, it's much better than Ground Floor.
Well, Ground Floor is a shit game. We talked about that. But Skyline was kind of fun, but it's basically just a shorter Yahtzee. Skyline is to Yahtzee what Euchre is to Whist. So between Skyline and King of Tokyo, I think King of Tokyo is a better game.
I also agree because Skyline didn't have as many of the interactive elements.
Yep,
The only
Skyline
interactive
has
element,
no brinksmanship.
the only brinksmanship it had was like the one piece left, that extra piece you leave over in the storage or whatever.
Yep,
What's it
yep.
called? The leftover bits that someone else can grab. All of, right?
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, that's it. Whereas this one, it's like you're directly Yahtzee and you need to react to people, right? If someone, if you see, it's like, if it's depending on who's in Tokyo, you might re-roll a claw, not to hurt them, right? Because they're going to lose anyway. You're better off getting some points or something.
Yep.
Right? Let them stay in there and get killed by someone else who is vicious.
It adds a little bit more sort of randomness, but it's the Yahtzee randomness that's heavily mitigatable by odds. You know exactly the risk you're taking by going for X over Y over Z, and the odds of six-sided dice are trivial to calculate in your head. You don't even need to calculate them. You just need to have the rough feel of them. I mean, I played Yahtzee from my childhood probably over 1,000 times. Because it's like the family game. Like every family would play it. I'd go over to friends' houses and they would all play it. Like everyone played Yahtzee. We played in school, in elementary school.
I had a book of Yahtzee score sheets and they were empty, so I had a second book of Yahtzee score sheets. So that's how many. One Yahtzee score sheet can play Yahtzee like fucking 6 times on both sides.
We had a Yahtzee box from the 50s. Like late 50s, maybe early 60s.
Well, we had a triple Yahtzee,
and the score
then
sheets were all full of like my parents playing it when they were kids.
Yep. I think that was the triple Yahtzee we had was my parents' one, and then I think I had another one where I got the second set of score sheets.
We didn't own
from.
triple Yahtzee,
That was a
but
travel Yahtzee.
when I learned about triple Yahtzee as a kid, I was like, well, it's obviously better than regular Yahtzee. So I made my own sheet, and then I went to Kinko's and paid to have it duplicated. I was very proud of that. That same Kinko's refused to let me Xerox pages out of my Dungeons and Dragons encyclopedia because that would be copyright infringement. That was in the early days when copy machines and Kinko's were not exactly common and no one really knew. Like people were afraid of Kinko's for copyright stuff. And Kinko's really weird about that. But yeah, this is a kind of game that if you go to conventions or are commonly introducing games to other people, like, hey, would you like to play a game? Or, hey, you've come over to my party. Let's play a light game while we wait for more people to show up. This is your game. Just buy it. It's also a great game if you want to introduce games like this to your kids. A kid who is too young for Yahtzee, even though I think 6-year-olds can play Yahtzee just fine.
If you can count, and if you can play poker, you can play Yahtzee, right? And my grandpa taught me poker, and I was
young
almost
kids
zero.
who might not be interested in Yahtzee will play this because you're a monster. You're fucking up other monsters with your claw.
Yep.
It's also got some apt references to old robot movies and old monster movies, and it's just very well done for what it is, and it's not that expensive. A lot of times, games that are of this caliber cost way more than this for no good reason.
Yeah, what I think it really is just that, there are these certain games that are like the warm-up game, right? And you think of it as like a Spot It or something along
Jungle
those lines,
Speed.
right? But those games, I think, are almost too light, right? They don't really, get you sitting at a table to play a board game. They don't really get you doing any sort of strategies or anything, right? And because they're so light, they get too much play. I think those are better for the stand-up. We really don't have time for a game. Let's play Spot It, right? I think this is really a real warm-up game, right? You still get the people sitting at the table, playing the game properly, and then you can switch to a real game once they're sitting there like that. It's much harder to switch into a Puerto Rico from a Spot It than it is to switch from a King of Tokyo to a Puerto Rico.
Yep. And it's so quick to teach that you can get the people who normally wouldn't play a game to just, oh, I'll play it. You'll be done with the whole game in 20 minutes plus 5 minutes of teaching tops.
Yeah, and nerds like the themes. You can get nerds to play, even if they're not board game people.
Yep.
You know? So.
But seriously, if you want to be good at games and you haven't played Yahtzee, play Yahtzee. You don't even need to play it with other people. Just play it by yourself.
I
It's
played
a
some
single-player
solo
game.
Yahtzees.
I played many a solo Yahtzee. This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geeknights is not one, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.